The narrative is changing around Deion Sanders in Colorado. They have gone from frauds to for real.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Who doesn't love free things, and who doesn't love Phillip Dukes? Phillip from On3 is joining us today to talk all things Colorado. He was in Boulder for their latest win. They're a bowl game win, or a win to get them to a bowl game, Phillip. It was a huge win. I think a lot of people had to sort of go back on what they were saying about Colorado. And so let's just talk about the overall improvement and sort of change in the program that you've seen from year one to year two.
So I always thought that when Colorado had some depth, they would be a better team. And that's what I was preaching. Like, that's what made them better, in my opinion. The difference between year one and year two has been depth. When something goes wrong on the offensive line, there's another guy to step in. When the linebackers got hurt, then you saw the second linebacker floors. Defensively, when Travis Hunter was out, you didn't see a drop off because Colton Hood played out of his mind. I think those are the type things that make a team good. And you have fresh legs going into November, December. You got two players that really don't need a break, or that you can't afford to give a break. Well, really one now, and that's Shedeur. Because on defense, on defensive offense, you can get Travis a breather now. There isn't a significant drop off. Like trust me, there is nobody in the world like Travis Hunter. But it's not the same as it was before, where there wasn't a guy. Excuse me, man.
Yeah, you're good.
It's not the same as it was before, where there wasn't a guy who could step up and be productive. And we saw it like in minimal phases last year. Like, okay, well, this guy may be pretty good. And the team is deep. When you go look at their roster against the rest of the Big 12, I mean, when I look at a team like Cincinnati, 2 years ago, they were in the AAC. You look at a team like UCF, it's only their second year in the Big 12. So Colorado is coming from a place where they were in a Pac-12 last year, where, it was a tough draw. There was some really good teams in the Pac-12. This ain't that. And I think where Colorado stands, I think, man, shoot, like, to be honest, like, it's probably going to get into the next point, but nobody on the rest of that schedule, nobody on that schedule scares me as far as if I'm a Colorado guy, nobody on that schedule scares me. And I think if they take it a game at a time, they can run the table.
Yeah, I look at their final four games of the schedule, and it's kind of crazy to look at it from the perspective of before the season, where I was like, I literally called the last four games. I was like, that's the stretch of death right there. I was like, best case scenario, you go 2-2 and you escape, and it's like all good and dandy. Now it's like best or worst case scenario, Colorado needs to go 3-1. Like, that's my worst case scenario for them, because all those games are manageable. All those games look very winnable, like you said. To go back to sort of the improvement that we've seen, I liked what you talked about the depth, because that was a huge issue last year. I think we saw it with the offensive line specifically last year, where it was like, okay, we're going to run these five guys out here every single week and nothing's going to change. And we're just going to hope for the best. And okay, this is the secondary outside of Travis Hunter. No one else can cover. Now it's like, okay, we have guys who are projected NFL, like Preston Hodge is an NFL draft prospect. DJ McKinney, same thing. Cameron Craig, he's a little bit undersized, but I'm sure he'll get a shot at the league, right? Like, they have all these guys who are making plays, making an impact. And I think the biggest difference from last year to this year for me is just the overall like energy from the team, in the sense of like, they're no longer like this Cinderella story. It's like now they expect to be here. And I think that change in mindset, one, stems from the coaches being like, hey, we went 3-0 last year. It was cool while it lasted. And then we embarrassed ourselves, right? We lost eight of our last 9 games. Now it's like, okay, we have bigger goals at hand and we're trying to reach those goals. And I think the team has this mindset of like, everything they do is like good in the moment, but they move on from it. Like, I feel like last year there was too much like, we did it. And it's like, okay, it was a week 2 victory over Jeff Sims in Nebraska, or like, we did it. It's like, relax. It was Colorado State. Now it's like, they don't care about wins. Well, they care about wins, but they don't care about like what they did last week. We'll put it that way. They care about what they can do in the future.
No, they're a program. Like, you know, we throw that word around so much, but they're a program now. Like, there's a culture there. They expect to win. They want the best. They feel like they're the best. I mean, how do you not feel like the best when you got two potential number one overall picks on the same team? And it just doesn't, like, I mean, two Heisman candidates on the same team. We can talk about who's the Heisman candidate and who's the favorite. You can say all that you want to. Nobody can say they got two of them. Nobody. Right. And I think that kind of permeates throughout the locker room. And you see, like, I was able to, like, when I was out there, I saw, like, how these guys interact. Saw Travis being light, being fun. I saw Shador giving reps to the wide receivers in person. It's not like he's here and everybody else is there. Like, they're a ball club. And when your leaders are really, really good, that's what a leader is. People take on your personality. So if you've got a guy with a championship mindset and a Heisman mindset, and the people around him on both sides of the ball can feel that, then that makes for a good team.
Yeah, and I think their mindsets are really something. Assuming that, say, Deion Sanders stays in Boulder the next few years or whatever, their mindsets are something that sets this program up for years to come, right? Like, you kind of are laying the foundation, because obviously you're going to have guys that are playing with them now that are going to be here after they leave. And so there's sort of a futuristic approach to this as well from Deion Sanders. Whereas last year, it felt very like, this is for this year. Like, this team has a lot of futuristic feel to it. There's still some needs moving forward, but I think they've done a lot to make sure that they're going to be good this year, and also to be good in the future. And I think that's kind of was the biggest question about Deion Sanders and the way that he was building teams last year. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Colorado's path to the playoff. I think there is one. It's a little bit complicated, but it's there. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Roy. Hey, Locked on Buffs fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pooled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Travis Hunter. I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Travis made history, becoming the first player in Big 12 history to win Offensive Player of the Week and Defensive Player of the Week in the Big 12, something that's never happened before, and he just keeps doing something we've never seen before. He had 9 catches for over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 pass deflections on defense, so not too bad of a showing. Let's show Travis Hunter the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. Okay, Phillip, we got a really fun sort of scenario to talk about here, because I think this felt a little, I'll be honest, at the beginning of the season, before we had seen this team play, a lot of fans were like, this is a playoff team. And I, for one, am never comfortable declaring anyone a playoff team until I've seen a large chunk of them play together, right? So, like, when Georgia, like, every year Georgia, I'm like, that's a playoff team, because majority of their team is coming back. Texas, I'm like, okay, this year that's a playoff team. Or Alabama, which Alabama might not be a playoff team this year. In most cases, they are, though. And so I wasn't ready to jump on that bandwagon week 1. But now I'm looking at what I've seen from them so far on offense and defense, and what I've seen from the rest of the Big 12. And I think realistically, they have a legitimate shot at the Big 12 title and at a possible college football playoff bid, even if they don't make it to the Big 12 title. Defensively, they're giving up 12 less points per game this year. Offensively, they're somehow scoring more than they were last year. And they're just a more complete team. They're a better coach team. And I think they have a legitimate path. We talked about it earlier. Their last 4 games, it's Texas Tech on the road. Utah comes to Boulder. They go to Kansas City to play Kansas because they're playing at Arrowhead Stadium. And then last week, they're playing Oklahoma State. Of those 4 games, I view Texas Tech as the most difficult. And even then, I'm not really sure what to make of Texas Tech anymore, right? They were kind of a fringe contender, and then all of a sudden they lose to TCU. And so it's like, is Texas Tech good? I don't know, but I feel like Colorado's better than all these teams. What say you about this final 4-game stretch?
Yeah, they can beat every one of them teams. Like there's nobody on that schedule. I keep saying it like not Oklahoma State, not Texas Tech, not Utah, not Kansas. I think they're all teams that now these are all games that they could lose too, but they're definitely all winnable games. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were I could see them being the favorite in all 4 of these games as far as betting. Like, I don't see where they would be the underdog, especially who's ranked higher than them right now. Like, let me just check this out. But on that schedule, who's ranked higher than them?
On remaining schedule, none of them. But
on,
the only teams that are ranked higher than them in the Big 12 are obviously BYU, who's undefeated, number 9, Iowa State, number 11, they're undefeated. Kansas State, who that game to me, I think Colorado should have won. They just fumbled away, not like literally fumbled, but they had a chance to win the game late and just didn't execute. And so you're telling me that those two teams, Kansas or Iowa State and BYU, are the only concerns right now because they don't play each other. They don't play Colorado. So if they win out, they're obviously in the Big 12 title game. So Colorado obviously needs them to lose a game or so. And then also, and this is where it starts to get into the nitty gritty, Phillip. I got a whole breakdown of teams who need to lose for Colorado to get into the college football playoff if they didn't win the Big 12. Bama and LSU play each other. They're both 6-2. I think 3 losses is like the elimination with this 12 format, with the 12-team playoff. And so someone's got to lose. Someone's going to drop out there. Ole Miss plays Georgia. Ole Miss has 2 losses. Georgia has 1, but Georgia also has to play Tennessee. So in a weird world, there's a chance where they lose to Ole Miss and Tennessee, and then Georgia's out. Kansas State does play Iowa State, so Iowa State can eliminate Kansas State. Notre Dame plays Army, which based on how the Navy game went, I don't know if that means anything, but Army is ranked. And they also play USC, who's not ranked, but I think any more losses to Notre Dame bumps them out of any contention. And then Texas and Texas A&M play against each other. And then we also have Ohio State and Indiana playing against each other. And based off the fact that Indiana did not move up from 13, I feel like they may not get the respect they deserve. So there's a lot of things that can happen around the country that can help out Colorado.
Man, listen, all Colorado got to do is help Colorado themselves.
Right.
They went out, they going, bro. I can't see a world where you keep Colorado out of the playoffs with 2 Heisman candidates in the playoffs. And this is what the playoffs was to make more money, like in the grand scheme of things. Who's going to make more? I literally talked to an executive from ESPN yesterday, bro. They said that Colorado's, anytime they mention Colorado, it spikes in numbers. Like, it's true. YouTube, your numbers, like everybody who deals with Colorado, it's not a thing where it's like, oh my God. Deion Sanders is the most polarizing figure in college football, bro. It's just, it is what it is. There's no way they went out and they keep them out of the playoffs. Like, I don't care if they go to the Big 12 championship or not. You can't take a team that has won that many straight and with 2 Heisman candidates and say, nah, we'll take this. Ain't no way in the hell. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm telling you, like, so that's my prediction. They went out, they're going.
Yeah, I think you're right on. Realistically, if you leave out Colorado out of this expanded playoff and you sort of like say we have like a 4th place or 5th place SEC or Big 10 team in over them, and instead of we'll say they win out and Iowa State and BYU went out and obviously one of them beats each other. So Colorado would be in 3rd place, right? And you're taking a Colorado team that went on a huge run, has 2 of the biggest stars on the field, the biggest coaching star, and then you decide not to put them in. That shows that this playoff isn't about making money. It shows that it's about certain conferences, and that's not what this is about. This is about more accessibility. This is about getting more teams into the fold. And I saw this article the other day, and it kind of made me laugh. It was something about how Colorado's viewership has declined by 43% or something, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, let's look at, I don't think that's a Colorado problem. I think that's a Big 12 problem because of what TV times they get. Last year, I think Colorado had like 5 games on Big Noon Kickoff. Big Noon Kickoff is only reserved for the Big 10. So that automatically eliminates one of the biggest windows available. Obviously, game day is kind of dependent on who Colorado plays. And so I don't think Colorado's had like a game day worthy opponent this far, besides Nebraska. And I don't think they'll have one in the final 4 games. And so for people to say that, oh, Colorado's popularity is down, that's not true. And let's just be real. If Colorado wins out, the popularity and the calls for them to go to the playoff will be louder than ever. And I don't know if people are ready for that. And yeah, you're totally right. People want to talk about Colorado. I just saw Stephen A. Smith yesterday talking about how Alabama, Florida State, and Texas A&M all should have hired Deion Sanders. And it's like all three of those, or well, two of those three programs are contending for a playoff right now. Like people just need to mention Colorado, because if you can't find out a way to talk about Colorado on your show, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like I'm not gonna be a guy that comes in and try to hide it. Like, oh yeah, nah. I've been saying it the whole time. I'm like, bro, listen, the people who don't like Deion Sanders don't like what he's doing on the field. It's not that they don't like Deion Sanders, right? That was one of the first things I ever said about Colorado on my platform. And it's the truth. So I'm gonna keep it a buck again. Like, dog, who's gonna watch? Talk about Iowa State's viewership. Let's do that. Let's see what kind of national brand Iowa State has. You talking about the playoffs? Okay, well, it's people in Georgia who still don't know BYU was good this year. Like, nobody, like, and no disrespect to the Cougars, man. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. They're playing a really fun brand of football. Mm-hmm. But there are people who never watch football that watch Colorado. And it just is what it is. Now, if you want ratings and you want to save TV and you want to make this happen, who do you take over Colorado from the Big 12 with 2 losses? Nah, ain't no way, bro. So if and I'm not even 1,000% familiar of how the Big 12 championship would work this year. I just know that if you got a 2-loss Iowa State team and a 2-loss Colorado, you got to take Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a no-brainer, really. You can't have a chance to add Deion Sanders to something this spectacular and not do it, right? Yeah. Even if they're in there as the 12th seed, the 11th seed, whatever, it doesn't matter. Get Colorado in there if they deserve it, obviously. Obviously, if they lose another game, they're not going to be in it. And we talked about that earlier. Colorado has to win out, and that's the most important thing to them, is handling their business. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how Colorado's handling their business with one of the most notable recruits in the country. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make money. Make every moment more, with FanDuel. And you can make money, of course. An official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay, we're talking Julian Lewis. He's the biggest recruit in the country. That's sort of, I think everyone knows that he's probably on the fence about going to USC, right? I think USC, the only thing that's saving them right now in terms of Lincoln Riley being fired is Lincoln Riley can't be fired, at least not for now. They would owe him $90 million to send him out the door, and I don't think any program across the country wants to spend $90 million to fire anyone. So it's kind of just like, hey, Lincoln, figure it out. But does Julian Lewis want to go to a USC program that's kind of struggling, or does he want to go to a Colorado program that's ascending, sort of take over where Shedeur Sanders is leaving off? He was at the game. He's obviously the biggest recruit in the Colorado atmosphere. Talk to me about what you think, because this is your realm, recruiting. Talk to me what you think Colorado's doing right and what they need to do to sort of continue to secure the Julian Lewis commitment if possible.
I think you just continue to recruit him with all hands on deck. Everybody on that staff is familiar with him, from the defensive coaches to the offensive coaches to the analysts. I got to see it personally. Like, everybody is all hands on deck. They give him the space he needs, but they also allow him to be a kid, and I think that's really important too. They treat him like a ball player, but they also treat him like a guy who just reclassified into this class. And a lot of people forget this is technically his junior year. That's his senior season. So, right. There's a certain level of I think care you have to handle him with, and I think Colorado does a great job of that. And and also the offense, right? You see Shedeur, you see the type of plays that he's making. They both throw, in my opinion, like they throw really catchable balls, right? And I think that's something that's the translation of how does he fit in this offense when you have options on the perimeter that can make those type of plays and to continue to bring and to continue to bring in playmakers around him. And I think that the way that they're recruiting on the outside, not just him, but they're recruiting other guys, other big time prospects that are considering Colorado now, that you'll see some surprise names. Like this is going to be an important week, and you'll see some stuff come out about Colorado and their recruiting efforts this week. With them being on a bye, they're going to pop up to a few schools that you weren't expecting them to pop up at. So with that being said, I think as long as they continue to recruit across the board in a positive way, they continue to have everybody involved. And what I learned about Colorado this weekend is that they're not going to take a backseat to anybody in NIL. Like they got it, bro. Like Colorado's really set up like it's a powder keg up there. And I think it's different, man. I saw it firsthand. I saw the star power on the sideline. Like there's a lot going on and a lot to like for a 17, 18-year-old to say, I would love to play football up here. Not even talking about the atmosphere. So I think as long as they continue to sell Colorado don't try to make Colorado Georgia. Don't try to make Colorado Bama. Make Colorado Colorado. And as long as they continue to sell Colorado and what Deion Sanders is doing there, they're going to be fine. And I think they got a really good shot at Julian.
Yeah, I think with the new playoff and everything, it's like there's no reason to not just go all in and making your program unique, right? Because name me a program in the Big 12 that can keep up with Deion Sanders recruiting if he wants to recruit, obviously. Like Mike Gundy, like is he going to go toe-to-toe with Deion Sanders? No. Kyle Whittingham at Utah? Utah is built off of finding gems. Like nobody in the Big 12 right now that at least hopefully I'm not overlooking anyone, but I don't think there's any program in the Big 12 right now that I think if Deion Sanders in Colorado give maximum effort for a recruit would out-recruit Colorado, right? Like that's just not how it works.
There's nobody in the Big 12 that recruits at their level with a national imprint. Nobody can go to Washington State and Florida.
No, nobody could go coast to coast and get those top recruits. And I know Deion Sanders always likes those Florida kids. And for some reason, Florida kids are always faster. I don't get it. It must be something in the water down there. They're just always faster than everyone. But yeah, I thought the Julian Lewis sort of saga is interesting for Colorado because it kind of feels like they're all in on him as they should be. Right. And I think that they are. And this is what I should talk about this in the first segment. This is where I've seen one of the biggest differences is the effort in recruiting, or at least the public effort, right? Regardless of how much work you're putting in behind the scenes, sometimes recruits, families, people just want to see that you're putting in effort. And so we saw Phil Loadhawk go to a school. We saw Pat Shermer go to, I think he went to Duncanville to pop in to say hi to Keelan Russell and stuff like that. And we've seen all these coaches go places. And like, that's a big deal. And I think showing that you're making an effort for Julian Lewis is a big deal. And I think if it pays off, this will probably be, I don't want to say Deion Sanders' biggest recruiting win, but it's definitely up there, right? Because it's a little different than Travis Hunter. It's a little different than Cormani McClain because it's a quarterback, right? We always knew that Deion Sanders was going to recruit corners. Like, I mean, if you're a corner, why would you not want to go learn from the best corner ever? But to get a quarterback of this caliber, that'd be great. That'd be crazy for the program.
Absolutely, man. And I think what it says is you got a guy who's ready. Like if anybody, when I talk about Julian Lewis, what impresses me the most about him is his moxie, his maturity. He's always been that guy. Going into his first year, state playoffs in the highest classification as a true freshman. This ain't nothing but a couple of years ago. He goes up against Caleb Downs, and his team has a phenomenal performance. I think he puts up 300 yards. I think that Mill Creek was just a little better than them all around that year. But to see him put up, to see him making the plays that he was making, looking off the best player in the country, he's not afraid of anybody, right? Like, and hands down, Caleb Downs was probably the best player in that class. And last year, a lot of people thought that he had the potential to be the best defensive player in the country. So when you talk about being able to play against guys like that as a baby, now he's doing it again. He'll be able to do it next year. And he's one of the guys that what I really like about Julian is one play don't get him down. He knows who he is. Like, bro, I know I'm the guy. And his dad, shout out to TC, man, his pops, man, did a great job of instilling that in him. So, yeah, man, I think going forward, like, if Colorado can pull this off, it just kind of plants the flag for Deion. And I don't think you get Julian Lewis and then say, I'm going to take another job. Like, I don't think that happens, bro. So,
yeah. I feel like he's setting himself up to build something in Colorado. And I think Julian Lewis, I don't want to say he's the first step because I feel like Jordan Seaton kind of laid that foundation a little bit, but landing Julian Lewis is like an investment, right? It's a long-term investment in yourself. It's a long-term investment in Colorado. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this winds down. I feel like I'm hearing more about Indiana and Colorado than I am about USC when it comes to Julian Lewis. So I don't think USC is out of the picture because obviously he's still committed there, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's a last minute flip to somewhere else. And Colorado fans, I know, are hoping it's to Colorado. Phillip, I appreciate you hopping on. Tell the people what you're working on and where they could find you, because I know you always got some great stuff cooking up.
Man, catch me on the 5-Star Flex on 3 Recruits channel. You just put it in YouTube, search Phillip Duke, search 5-Star Flex, Twitter and Instagram at Dukes D Scoop. Yeah, and then check out the latest show. Like, so I've built a good relationship with some people. So at Colorado, so some of the content is going to be good when I do check in with Colorado. But yeah, as far as a national imprint, Texas, Tennessee, anybody you want to talk about, I'll talk about. Drop the name in the comments.
Yeah, he's got everybody covered from the East Coast to the West Coast and even Hawaii, possibly. It's Phillip. He does it all. I'm Kevin Borba. This is Locked On Buffs. We are here and we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We will see you guys tomorrow.